take a minute to just remind ourselves where we're at. We have already been able to solve one-step equations. So it says I can correctly solve linear equations of one of the types below. Then on the second one, I can do two of the types below. So you can do one-step and two-step equations, which was an assessment that we took on levels 1 and 2 last week. And the highest score you could get was a 2, because we just see where are we at right now. Then we've already begun work on our combining like terms problems. So I can correctly solve one and two-step equations and one additional type below. So if you could do the combining like terms that we've been doing, that would get you to about a 2.5. Sorry, this would be two of these below. So you need to be able to do the combining like terms and the ones that we're going to learn today, which is the distributive property. Okay, so the big idea here is we're trying to be able to solve equations using the inverse operations. So before we can get to using the inverse operations, we need to simplify using combining like terms or distributive, and that's what we're focusing on today. So I'm going to turn the page here to page 19. This is our second day on page 19. All first A, B, C, and D are already completed. So if you need those four, that's a separate video. So we're doing the problems E and F below. So what you'll notice here, I'm going to zoom in so we can see the problems a little bit better here on page 19. What you'll notice here on page 19 is that you see these parentheses. And if you see those parentheses, you know that you're going to have to distribute. We cannot combine these two pieces inside of the parentheses because one of them has an X and the other one doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to put that underneath here. Notice your parentheses. Okay, that means we need to distribute. Okay, and that is our step 1, is to distribute. So again, remember that distributive property means I'm going to multiply 3 times this 5x. So 3 times 5 is 15. So this means multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15 x's minus 3 times 4 is 12 equals 48. Now I go back to my last 2 steps, which is undo any addition or subtraction. Undo that part first, and then I'll divide. Okay, so if I draw my line here, I'm going to add 12 to both sides to get rid of that. So bring down my 15 x's. And 48 plus 12 is 60. Now divide by 15. and we have x equals 4. There's our final answer. Okay, we're going to do one more with a negative sign, just so we can remember to keep our negative numbers, but then we're going to go ahead and just practice. Okay, so again, we see the parentheses. Anytime you see those parentheses, that means to multiply. So we're going to take this number on the outside, and we're going to multiply it times both numbers in the parenthesis. So -2 times 3 is -6. And then -2 times 5 is -10. You can put plus a negative, but I'm going to just warn you that that gets confusing with the solving piece. Okay, so we're not going to write plus a negative when I do it together. So let's try to keep it without that. So we're going to do -2 times 5 is -10 equals 8. Okay, so now here's where it comes into play. Just because I have one negative sign, I know that I'm adding. If you had plus a negative, does that mean you subtract a negative? Does that mean you subtract a positive? What are you supposed to do with that? So it gets to be confusing. So because I just have one sign here, I know I'm adding. And I know we're going to rush through this, so when you're actually doing your problems, be careful that your negative sign comes down. Then we're going to divide by -6. And we'll have x equals -3. Oh, sorry. We could circle that as our final answer. And page 20 is going to be our practice work here for this. And there's just 3 problems at the bottom here, 7, 8, and 9, to finish on page 20.